Good evening and welcome to another edition of Fort Wayne Up Close. I'm telling y'all, man, it feels like I need a sleeping bag. I've been on every night this week, or actually, 5 shows in 2 days. Wow. But the best part about it today, I ain't gonna say they say the best for last just because I might get some other guests upset. But, you know, when I talk about chasing the white whale and going out and trying to get somebody on your show, hey, we done finally got him, ladies and gentlemen. A mover and a shaker. You guys know we all about the southeast side of Fort Wayne and revitalizing and developments and everything. This gentleman right here is at the forefront of all that, because when you talk about collaborations and partnerships, he understands that, and he is here doing his thing. But let's welcome to the show, Mr. George Guy.
Thank you, man. That's a good introduction. I appreciate that, man. And I've been waiting to be a guest on the show. So you didn't have to run too far to find me, but I'm just glad to be here.
Hey, you know, we're gonna get off into that, and we know you're a busy guy, but before we do, you know, we've changed up our format here. We're gonna give a little prayer before we get off into our message. So let us bow our heads. Lord, thank you for allowing us to wake up and see another day. Lord, thank you and bless you for allowing us this opportunity to have this platform to get our message out to the people in our city. And Lord, please continue to bless our people, bless our nation in these times that we're having, that they can hear the message and that everybody that wants to do better can get the knowledge so that they can do better. Lord, we ask these blessings in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Yes, sir.
All righty. Now, Mr. Guy, like I said, I know you right around the corner. You right. We travel some of the same circles. We work with some similar projects. Absolutely. But, you know, a lot of folks might not know how busy you are. And when I say that, director of Fort Wayne Housing, I mean, that's a task in itself.
Yes.
But then when you talk about a national perspective, and here's something, too, I want you to speak on, because it's something when I worked at Housing Authority, a lot of people don't understand that, you know, most times when you talk about Indianapolis, they gonna be ahead of Fort Wayne. You know, that's the big city. But in the land of housing, Fort Wayne Housing is actually the experts and are the it factor over Indianapolis. So speak to your roles in Housing Authority, and, you know, you smiling, you know, you're a humble guy. And look, I left off, you know, President of NARO. You can break off what NARO is. These are national organizations, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason I can say that, I mean, I was able to travel around for 5 years all over the country with the Housing Authority. And again, when you walk through and people parting the Red Seas and putting their ear and interested in what you're saying, I mean, I was like, wow, it was eye-opening for me. But so, George, go ahead and speak to that.
Well, you know, first, thanks again for complimenting the Housing Authority, the agency, the company, in terms of what we've been able to do. But it really all starts here in Fort Wayne in terms of what we were able to do here. And you mentioned it, collaboration. We saw a lot of opportunities. What we try to do is make sure we're a good partner. And, you know, having folks like you on board who help advance the mission. You know, I came to you and I said, Jay, I got some things I want to do here, and I think that you can help us advance that. And so we've had a bunch of people over the years that have helped us with this mission and vision. We have a board who I've been collaborating with, and they really believed in my vision in terms of how we look at housing. So when we talk about housing, we talk about housing from a perspective of the intersections of housing, education, workforce. We're not afraid to talk about homelessness. That's one of the first things I did when I got here. I went to the Homeless Planning Council meeting. They beat me up. You know, you heard the story. They introduced me because, you know, Fort Wayne, it was very, very nice to me, you know what I mean, coming in. But they waited to the end of the meeting and they let me have it because of what Fort Wayne has done. And I always tell that story. And immediately the first thing I did on the job the second week here was make sure that we had a preference point for homeless folks. And that was part of our business going forward. And now we've got 2 permanent supportive housings up. We're part of one of the first aging out of foster care developments. So it's been things like that. And you know, not to talk about anybody in the state, we have some great sister organizations in the state that are doing good work, our partner, and they're doing good work. We just make sure that we're trying to be an example of what this thing could look like, as opposed to being some type of institutional agency. So we focus on people, and we want to make sure they have nice homes to live in. And we talk about stabilizing neighborhoods, and we're very intentional about that. So,
okay. Now, you talk about Fort Wayne being very good to you, and that's the thing. We have a lot of native sons that sit in that seat that you've been sitting in. So you're not a native son, you're an adopted son that came and hit the ground running.
Right.
But I think talk to us about where you from, and that'll speak, let the people know about the passion of some of what you do and where that comes from.
Well, thanks for the question. So I've been here 13 years, and I came from Rock Island, Illinois. It's about 300 miles west of here. We're west of Chicago. I been in housing now for almost 20 years, but I actually started my career in education. I also had the opportunity to work in workforce. So my first part of my career that's why I call myself a community builder. Because that's what I spent my career doing, building communities. But that started, man, I grew up in public housing. And I always tell people that we weren't poor, but we were poor adjacent. My mom and dad married young, and they had me young. And so I spent the first 6, 7 years of my life in public housing. And so that community, and we had a big family. And, Rock Island's similar to Fort Wayne. You got some, folks that migrated here from the South. You have a few families, they come from different, it's kind of the same places and states. Mm-hmm. And so, but on my maternal side, I'm about 3 or 4 generations in Illinois, in Rock Island. And my great grandfather was a slave but fought in the Civil War in the 108th Colored Troop. And I say that because that started the servant leadership in our family. I talked about my grandfather was a postal worker. And we're talking about being a postal worker in the 60s, in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And they integrated, they were one of the first 2 families to integrate a white neighborhood. And he put his 5 kids through Catholic school. So again, having a lot of pride, making sure that we're doing work, no excuses, roll the sleeves up, we care about the community, and we want to try to get to work. My mother then, through her work as a tenant organizer, that got us out of public housing, because then that took us into the other neighborhoods, and she began to do that. So that guided the work that I began to do. I saw myself as being a servant leader, and so I approached this whole thing by engaging the community. And so when we came here to Fort Wayne, that was something that I saw immediately, that there was opportunities for collaboration. And so I've tried to follow that model, whether it be my personal trajectory in my career, but it all starts from that. It all starts from really having that base of understanding what community means and how important it is, stabilizing neighborhoods. That's why we talk about that. And we also we're not afraid to talk about some of the other things. We're not afraid to mention the word poverty, right? And at the same time, talk about business. Yeah. And talk about investments and talking about people's lives. So, but the work starts with the people, man, and making sure that we give people a hand up so they can maximize their potential.
Yeah, great. And in everything I'm going to translate, Mom laid that foundation. Mom is still the head of the household and the North Star. So, yes.
That's right.
I appreciate that. Now, a lot of stuff that you guys got going on, talk to people, because it's not even just people in the community. It's people within housing that aren't even aware of all the programs that are going on. And I've been gone for 5 years, and things have changed. I mean, speak on Jobs Plus, FSS, moving to work. What a lot of these terminologies people hear about. What exactly are they? How can people get involved? Educate us.
So we talk about. My approach to this is, I've committed to human services as a servant leader, and you heard me say this. I think one of the mistakes that we make is we're afraid to talk about human services like they do corporations. So, and what I mean by that is we're an enterprise. And so we got different verticals of our business, right? We do housing, of course. We do some education. So we have a youth build program. That's for youth that are out of school, that want to get back into school, but they want to tie it in with a trade. That's a national program. We were able to get that from the Department of Labor. We're on the second of the 3-year it's a 3-year grant, second term of that. And so that services the whole community, not just our residents. So we have that because, again, our commitment to education and doing that. And so we also have, like you said, Jobs Plus. So that is a resource that we were able to do in terms of grant that we were able to do to help our residents get out of the situation that they're in. Because most of our residents, as you know, and the people that are on a waiting list, they're working people.
Yeah.
Their wages is just not enough. And so what we're trying to do is get them and tie them into something that's going to hopefully take care of them economically. So what Jobs Plus does is, because here's the trick when people are in, again, we're trying to provide solutions, and we think that's a big part of the business, is that we want to give people an opportunity to get self-sufficient. So if my rent is strapped, they got something called the cliff effect, right? So what happens is these folks know if I make too much money, I'm going to lose my assistance, I'm going to lose my child care assistance, and I'm going to lose my health care. So they work just enough. Yeah. So what we try to do is we try to eliminate the factor of rent. So Jobs Plus allows us to do that. And then they can get steady employment. So that's why we have Moving to Work program. So Moving to Work is it's a designation that public housing authorities can get if they've been high performer. Well, we've been high performer now for the last 10 years. And so we're one of 100 agencies in the country that have this designation. What that means is we have local flexibility. We don't have to deal with some of the regulations, the federal regulations that folks do. And so that comes with what we do is a tiered rent program. Again, people, when they make more money, they got to get out of the system, and they're not able to do that. They can't afford to do that. So what this does is it gives them time. It freezes their rent so they can build. We talk generational wealth. They can build some credit, they can build some income, and then they can get out. So they have 3 to 5 years to do that. So those are just some of the different levels of business that we have. Of course, we have our standard programs where we manage and operate homeowners, but we also do home ownership. We're in partnership with Freddie and Fannie in a program called Hoosier Homes, which is a home buyer assistance. That is a community-based program where we're giving down payment assistance throughout the state. Okay, and we're trying to make sure we promote, as you said, we're trying to do what we can to promote it here locally. And and not to give you, I'm gonna give you your flowers too. Much of the stuff we done on the human services side came under your leadership. And the partnerships that you were able to, you and the team were able to afford, because a central part of what we do is our human services department. And so we try to have these different verticals to make sure that the business is sustainable, but also to make sure that we're serving the community. So again, we're also builders. So we have 4 subsidiaries under the Fort Wayne Housing Authority, which allows us to build. We're also we facilitate and administer the local ESG program, which is emergency solutions grant. So it's a homeless program in terms of homeless assistance to folks, and we also do the state program. So again, that comes in terms of these different verticals of business that we do, because I believe that we're a human service enterprise, and we had to focus on sustainability. Because here's the thing, the government doesn't have a lot of money to distribute, so public and private partnerships are important. So we have to make sure we create a model that's going to be able to sustain, so we can be able to serve the community without giving excuses of, which they're not excuses, but they're reasons because of lack of funding. We got to create our own. So we
got you. And I'm glad you said that, because in the climate that we're in, and we know there was a period that there was a freeze on a lot of programs, when the administration changed. How did that affect you guys?
Well, it did, but not for long. Again, that's why we had a different vertical. So we were ready to deploy other resources on the ground. So I think for a short time we were trying to figure out what was going on, but because of again, as you stated, I've been able to afford myself the opportunity to collaborate, being the president of the state, president of the region, now president of the largest national housing and development association. I was able to engage us into a conversation to make sure that how does this impact us? So we were able to get information to say, okay, we can go ahead and continue doing what we need to do. Now, some of those things are still in question. Things are still being cut. But again, trying to make sure Fort Wayne is on the front end, and I'll just say it plainly, make sure we're at the table. Because when you're at the table, you're not on the menu. And you're going to make sure you have the information you need, and also make sure you have the resources to make sure you prepare yourself. So we've been fortunate in that category.
Gotcha. Another question of the times, and I just had this discussion the other day. I was explaining Moving to Work to somebody, and they were like, so is there a time frame? So they need to put people out. How long you gonna be a housing? And asking me these questions. So I know you get it. what is your philosophy and how do you feel about that? Or people who
Yeah.
think like that, how can somebody be in housing that long? They need to be in and to get out. What do you say to people like that?
Well, listen, as I said, most people are working. What I see every day is I don't see anybody trying to get over. I see people they're trying to make it. They're trying to figure out a way to make it. I think that they're just like me and you. They want a piece of the American dream. And for some reason, systematically, as we know, whether you're talking about redlining or just sometimes you're in an economic situation, a poverty situation, you just got caught up and your circumstances don't allow you to do what you need to do. Now, fundamentally, though, I think it's our responsibility. I want to say this, so I'm going to say this. I understand that point and that sentiment that you see a lot of people that it seems like, they're taking advantage of the system. I think that's a natural emotional reaction. I think we see some of that. But I think that most people want to make sure that they have a shot at it. And so our job is to make sure that we focus on that. But I do think poverty it gets in your head. The way that someone may be victim of a systemic problems and issues in the community, where you're talking about redlining and education and already being behind, that leads into other behaviors, mental health issues, drug abuse, alcohol. And so those factors can come in as well. And that gets into what people are talking about. I get it. But I do think it's our responsibility to make sure that we're operating a program that we can continue to give people, the people that really need it, what they need. So I'm not advocating for work requirements. I'm not advocating for term limits. I just think you need to be flexible within the system. So if I give you an opportunity by freezing your rent because it's a rent subsidy program, then in those 3 to 5 years, we should put you in a position where you can be successful. If not, we need to have a conversation. And the reason why I say that is because you got a huge waiting list of people that really need the program. That's why I said it's our responsibility to make sure that we have the opportunities. That's what moving to work does for us, right? And so I don't like the name because it puts that kind of terminology on it, but that's the idea, is that we're getting people in a situation and moving them to self-sufficiency. So that's the kind of attitude in mind. And I think that when we can talk about that to those folks that have that way, because I understand that sentiment, that gives them an opportunity to say, okay, that makes sense. Because think about it, Jay. Somebody gets a good job. You've seen that in the FSS program. They get a job, they get a degree. They got 3 or 4 kids when they had the degree, though.
Correct.
And so I'm making $45,000. I got 4 children. Now I'm stuck. I still need this subsidy. So I can't make too much money because now I'm gonna lose all this service. So I think that making sure we can be creative with our programs and not have them be so restrictive, they put people in a position to be successful. And that's what we're about. One of the things I didn't mention was I was a coach for some time. And so I believe in people want to maximize their potential. And so I think that wins out when you have the opportunity to do that.
No, I absolutely agree. And what you got to understand, when we talk about the Southeast side, average income is like $26,000.
Yeah.
So like you said $45,000, but really it's folks over there with $26,000. Like you said, hardworking folks. And like you said, your programs aren't affected right now. I watched the news last night. You know what it is? Vouchers and childcare. So I'm making $26,000. Childcare is $16,000 a year. You tell me, what am I to do? And then the other point I wanted to make, and for folks, if you haven't got it clear, but what moving to work allows you guys, you don't have all those stringent guidelines. It allows you to be creative, is what he was saying. So you had that flexibility to break it down, and that is the key.
It creates a situation to be innovative.
Correct.
Right, and so we can just not operate a bureaucratic program. It requires us to have people like yourself that was on board with us to say, hey, let's look at this thing differently. So we can use our flexibilities and we can look at coming up with some good solutions that are going to really help people. So that's what it drives. It drives creativity. It allows the folks that are doing the job to let their curiosity flow and create some good opportunities for folks.
Yeah. And to further drive home the point and talk about another program that you hadn't touched on, but the home ownership. You know, if you don't have a voucher, home ownership program. So we get somebody that graduates the FSS program or the home ownership program. They come to see a lender, and the lender looks and they're making $35,000 a year. Now, $35,000 a year. I don't know if you guys check rates, but actually you guys all watch our show, so you know the cost of housing these days. So at 35,000, you know, you're talking about a home about $90,000 to $100,000, and just makes it tough for these folks. So, you know, again, to George's point, you know, these are hardworking people just trying to get their piece of the American dream. And while we're on that subject, when we talk about development, talk to us. I know you got, you know, Victoria Acres is something that's been on the plate for a while. Hillcrest, I know that thing started here, then it went there, then now there. But I see, hey, completely different than what we started. But they got something in this housing. You are trying to have some solutions to this housing shortage that we have in this area. So speak to that.
So it's all about investment. Like I said, stabilizing and investing in neighborhoods, man. I'm from a place where this, like Southeast Quadrant of Fort Wayne, right? It's been underinvested in. And we want to make sure that we want people that want to live on the Southeast side have a good place to live if they want to live there. Most of the people on the waiting list, that's where they want to live at, right? They want to live where their family grew up at. So I think our job is to make sure that we invest in that. So we've been fortunate to be, we were part of we thought that there was 20 acres of land over on Victoria Acres in Paulding, and we call it Victoria Acres. And so we saw that as it was part of blight elimination. So we purchased that from the city. We're in the process now of coming up with something that's going to be really, we think, beneficial to that area in terms of that. We've had it for some time now. I'm going to be very excited when we roll that out. But that's going to be part of our $250 million investment plan.
Okay.
We have properties that we're going to be repurposing, but we're also going to be new development. And we're over the next 3 to 5 years, we have a $250 million investment plan in housing. And so it's going to be that. You mentioned Hillcrest Commons, which was the old Hillcrest School right next to us. And you're right. We bought that some 11 or 12 years ago. We weren't really successful in the tax credit, low-income housing tax credit round, but we've been able to be, we got successful during COVID. And so now, man, they're telling me, man, that we may be able to lease at the end of the year.
Oh, okay, wow.
And so that's going to be chronically homeless, folks that are that experiencing homelessness. So, yeah, man, that's very important to me. Like I said, stabilizing neighborhoods, community investment. We're now looking at a plan to look at neighborhoods that have lots and homes that may need to be purchased and kind of redeveloped. We're going to be very aggressive at partnering and also leveraging our own to develop in neighborhoods. So I'm telling folks out there right now, if you see some opportunity out there, you want to partner with the housing authority. We're having conversations with some local developers now. And I think that's really important. We're an entity. We have some reach. But Fort Wayne, one of the things I know in Fort Wayne, because of the landlords we do in the Housing Choice Voucher Program, our business partners there are a lot of folks that are from Southeast that are property owners, multiple property owners. And I'm going to tell you all something right now. I'm going to speak to you. You all should think about development in your community. There's a lot of opportunities for small developers. I know some of you own homes, but I think how we're going to be able to, I think folks from the neighborhood and from this part of town or certain parts of town, there are opportunities for you to invest. And you all know what this used to be and what it used to look like. You know that this used to be, and it still is a vibrant place to live. But you know kind of what happened here over the course of time. And there are opportunities for folks to do that. And so I really do want to say that's important. And I know folks I'm also on the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis. I'm the chair of the Affordable Housing and Advisory Council. And there are opportunities, as you know, being a part of that network is they have opportunities for smaller new developers. So those things are important in terms of I see what Jerry Starks is doing. That's I applaud that, but there should be more Jerry Starks, right? So, so I wanted to really imply that. So we have our reach. You have Linda Golden doing some things, but I just want to encourage everybody to do that, and whatever we can do to partner to help you get to there, we want to make sure we're doing it. And I'm having some of those conversations now.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. Yeah, Jerry was just on Wednesday. So shout out Jerry Starks and Roosevelt Reserves. Broke it down, and it's funny that you said that because like Jerry, he wasn't a developer. He was a realtor that just kind of got off into it. I mean, he sat there. That's what he said. He jumped off into it and said, "Hey, I'm gonna try it." He bumped his head and stumbled around to what he has going, where he's got homes going up right now and lots being sold. Linda Golden of Victoria Gardens just had a meeting with her earlier today through Rainey, and she got to go ahead. They got the TIF funds and ready to go to do the infrastructure. So she's talking with some different banks and things. But yeah, actually those two, again, just like you said, are from this side and have that passion. And it's some other folks out there that are hustlers that, like you said, don't be scared. Just get out there. And as you say, you guys are good partners. You got a good relationship with the city. And I think that's a piece that helps. If you go out and folks aren't comfortable with those circles and might be intimidated, and I know some people, come down, sit down, have a sit down with you. With that said too, I like posterity. What's you that used to be you guys. So now with all these other phases, again, and these are questions that I get. I'm in the community, so people ask me.
You're doing the gotcha now, George. JJ.
I gotta ask.
So we obviously we manage one of our different verticals is we do property management, and so we manage Posterity Scholar House, and that's a very innovative project. Got the solar panels there, the transportation that's there for single mothers. That's what that's designated for. And at one time we did own that. We were a part of that partnership. But there were there were some things that needed to happen. I think there was a different focus. And so we were able to voluntarily get out of that, and it allowed what's happening there with Village Premier and all the different things that are going on there. And I think the city is excited about that project. We're assisting them with some vouchers and some of the affordable units that they're having there. So we're excited to be a part of that. And so, I think that, like, again, we just try to figure out how can we help assist in that. And we're excited, man. I think I want to shout out Mayor Sharon Tucker. I think she's been very animate about not just Southeast side, but she wanted to make sure the Southeast side had what they needed from business perspective as well as homes, affordable homes, and that type of thing. And also, I got to give a shout out to Glenn Hines and Michelle Chambers. I think all three of those leaders have made sure that the Southeast quadrant was included in much of the development. And I think that when you think about the programs like Village Premier and some of the other things that are going up, I think that we have to attribute to that kind of leadership.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you said that because you're exactly right. And I have to give a shout out to Habitat for Humanity, building homes and doing their things. Sure. And Sharon made it a point that she didn't want cookie cutter homes. She wanted to have a little variety, and so again, just having that foresight. And I know it kind of ruffles some feathers, but again, I've been blessed to be able to travel around the country, around the state, and had the voice that. Well, I went up to South Bend. South Bend had about 15 different designs. So therefore, I'd have to think Sharon did her research too.
That's right.
Mayor Tucker did her research, and that's what it is. And it had to give kind of a little dissertation on stigma and everything else. So it all worked out. But a lot of people doing great things, and but I mean that effort is much needed because I mean the shortage is real for our folks that are over here. I said it once, I said it 1,000 times. You were on the panel, and we talked about the shortage, and I said nothing that hurts my heart more than when I get somebody that has a 700 credit score, which is good, no liability, and they want to again get that American dream, but they make like $45,000. and they, single. So I'm like, there's not a lot. I can get you approved. I can't go get that house.
That's right.
So unless something has to be done, and again, people that want to put stigma on folks that are in different programs, you better check our city, our state, because livable wage.
Listen, that's a
Livable wage.
if you want to throw the it's not a blame, but if you want to associate with what the biggest challenge is that the wages are low.
Yes.
We still got $7.25 minimum wage. I'm not going to get into where the minimum wage should be, but what we see is, like you said, people are not making enough money.
Yeah.
And so that's where the housing choice voucher program comes into play, where people have that opportunity. Like you said, you can use the voucher as leverage for home ownership. And unfortunately, when the wages are not there, folks have to be opportunistic and leverage that. And so so we applaud those type of programs. But I think you did ask a question about how some of these programs are impacted. So there is. So Fort Wayne Housing Authority has we administer vouchers here for the city, for the HUD, Housing Urban Development. Now, we're not a part of HUD. I probably should have said that from the beginning. We're not a government organization. We are we have an agreement with HUD, and that was some years ago, before I was here, way before most of us were here, and that was allocated. We had allocated vouchers for that. Now, in that, there's funding that comes with that. Right now, because in communities across the country, there hasn't been more money into the program, and communities are growing, like Fort Wayne is growing.
Yeah.
When there's growth that happens, rent goes up, folks, and the cost of living is going up here in Fort Wayne, and it's gone up. And so what happens with that is folks want more money for rent. So right now, the challenge we have, that's why our waiting list is closed, because we're not getting enough money into the program to administer. The cost of rents have gone up 25 to 30%. So when I talk about business, we have to look at this as a business model now, in terms of how we're, the money that we're getting and how we allocate it is going to be important how we go forward. But that's part of the challenge of juggling some of these programs, is that there's just not enough to go, and then they're not competing with the market when you talk about housing. So that's why when you talk about the crisis that we're facing, that's part of the challenge, and that's why public and private partnerships and being innovative on how we go forward is going to be important, and getting people economically self-sufficient so they can own a home and they don't have to be part of that process.
Okay. Look, George, it goes quick. That 30 minutes, hey, people, we could probably go for another hour and a half, but we ain't gonna let them be privy to our behind the door discussions and things, because they can go a whole bunch of different directions. But man, it's been a pleasure having you on. Glad you finally made it over here.
Absolutely.
Keep doing the good work. Anything that we can do to help, let us know. We're here for you, promoting things that you do. I'm gonna continue to reach out, because I've got my programs that we're doing. Thinking of which, this Saturday, the 13th, 9/13, 6 to 8 at the Fort Wayne Urban League, the first of our 3-part series, our financial literacy, a mental state of mind. Come on out, come support. Again, a lot of good information. Going to have 2 bankers, 2 mental health professionals on the panel discussing things. We'll feed you. Put your name in the hat for a win a TV, 65-inch TV.
Wow.
Can't beat it. But come on out. You guys know it's going to be a quality event. We're always cognizant of people's time. So we say 2 hours, it's going to be 2 hours. We're not going to have you out there for 2.5. We definitely respect people's time by putting on quality shows and getting you out. But with that said, Mr. George Guy, again, pleasure having you, sir. Good luck to you and everything that you do. And folks, as we talked about it, we got Fort Wayne Housing doing great things. Jerry Starks, Linda Golden, all these folks have been on the show. Numerous others that are out there. Let's continue to support their projects. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. He's given his website that you're gonna reach out and get in touch with him. But until next time, we are ONV.